Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, Svetlana. She's in San Diego as usual, and I am here in Chicago in Sungates Center Studio. And we are talking today about Hashimoto diets. We continue to talk about Hashimoto and diet, and specifically, we're gonna dive into gluten. Good morning, Svetlana.
Hi, good morning, Rita, and everyone. Happy Monday. And we're continuing one of my favorite subjects today, thyroid, Hashimoto's, and how all of that is affected by what we put in our bodies. And how what we put in our body can make a huge difference in how we feel.
And it starts in our mouth, right? Whatever we put in our mouth continue on into our body, and then we feel how we feel based on that.
Yes, yes. Some people say it starts with the fork, actually,
Aha! Even better, right?
before you put it in your mouth. Yes. So, last time we talked about thyroid and diets, and we covered things like why do we need a specific thyroid for, sorry, why do we need specific diet for our thyroid health? What specific foods to add or eliminate from our routine? Talked about inflammation and how that affects our body and how we feel. Um, and today we want to continue the discussion and talk some more about specifically gluten, because that's such a huge topic and sometimes even controversial topic.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's good to have some insights from your experience, from experience of your clients. Because myself, I have to tell the truth, I am not gluten free. And I'm not even trying to.
Huh.
So I am staying away from white flour and stuff and bread, but occasionally I can have something. I allow myself to have either it's good or bad. I don't know yet, but I feel good. That's what important. Okay.
Exactly. That's how you feel. That's the measure of
Mm-hmm.
your body and what it does for you. I am gluten free. I have been for about 5 years. As Rita knows,
Yeah.
she helped me start on that journey, and I'm very, very meticulous about continuing to be gluten free. And I'll tell you more about that. And I'll tell you more about why I'm really, really cautious about gluten. Because what I have going on for me is actually autoimmune condition. And that is a little bit different from when somebody is struggling with thyroid without a thyroid condition without autoimmunity. So just a little bit of a different process. Well, very different process there, but it makes a difference whether you have gluten or not with autoimmune conditions. So,
Let's start. Yes, let's start. Which grains you can start whatever you want, but my question is what grains you feel like are gluten free and which ones are not?
that's a really good question because so this is what I originally learned.
Okay.
Originally learned that wheat, spelt, rye, barley are the main grains that have gluten. However, recently I also learned that other grains that I thought were gluten-free are also gluten grains. However, they don't affect our autoimmunity the same way that those grains that I mentioned originally do, like spelt, wheat, barley, and rye. So like rice
Right.
and quinoa and um, why am I blanking out? Amaranth, grains like that have gluten, but it's a different type of gluten. So let's just be clear. The gluten we want to be cautious about is the type of gluten that's in wheat, rye, barley, and spelt. Um, But that's not all. When we go out and shop for foods, obviously we want to look at the nutritional content and ingredients list for those ingredients. But uh, but gluten does not come only under those names.
Mm-hmm.
It can hide under other names like
Right.
malt, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, certain starches can be made from gluten. There's actually a huge list that it's kind of tricky. You don't realize it's actually gluten until you learn what it's made from. Sometimes labels also have allergen information, and it will tell you if it has gluten or not. So like they usually list allergens like eggs and seafood, right? And dairy and gluten. So it will tell you if it has gluten or not.
Svetlana, can you explain to our listeners what really gluten is and why especially Hashimoto
Mhm.
uh, patients and I would say clients should avoid it?
Yeah, so gluten is a type of protein that's in the grain,
Mm-hmm.
type of protein, and it's it's quite different from the gluten that the ancient grains
That's important.
contained.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question is why all of a sudden we're talking
Yes.
about gluten? It's never used to be the case that gluten was used to be such an issue.
Yeah, because bread was the main product on the table for the ancient people, and I mean, 1,000 years ago. That's what happened.
Yes, yes. So why now? Why is it all of a sudden everybody having issues with gluten?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a few reasons for that. First of all, the way the bread products are made or grain products are made these days is very, very different from the way they were used to be made. For example, it used to take a few days for grain to go from the grain
Mm-hmm.
to the bread stage, right?
Right. Right.
They used to ferment breads, through sourdough process, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
it took a few days. But now it takes like a few hours, from the grain to the packaged bread. And then it used to be that, you have to eat the bread within a few days, otherwise it's going to go bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stay on the shelf for like weeks, maybe even more, because of all the other stuff they put in there to preserve the freshness. So it's not just the grain now that's a part of the bread, but there's other additives, that are in there. So that's, one thing. Is there anything else you want to add to the process of making the bread, Rita?
No, not really, except that I know that some now breads can be kept in the refrigerator for long months and then be defrosted and people
Yeah,
eat them. So
yeah,
something in there that keep them alive, I guess, if it's alive actually.
yeah.
It's probably
Right,
not anymore anyway.
right. It's
It's
not a
not
live
live food.
food. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment and let our listeners know who just sign up, who just turn on their players on our website, sungatesradio.com, that we are talking about Hashimoto diets. We are talking about gluten specifically with holistic health coach Svetlana Burak, who is specialized on Hashimoto and treating Hashimoto, helping Hashimoto clients to feel joy, to feel wonderful, to feel great, and feel the energy and joy in their life. And also, you can ask us questions by texting to this number 847-345-0988. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Okay, so we continue on that.
Yeah, so another reason bread products and gluten is very different these days is because um, there's actually is a scientist that created new type of wheat.
Hmm.
It's a hybridized type of wheat. And the purpose of creating this new type of wheat was to feed more people, to conquer the hunger of the world. And so
Hmm.
it was a very noble purpose. But what it created is kind of a monster type of wheat.
Hmm.
It has very different DNA. And so what it does, it creates bigger products, bigger breads, bigger bagels. So things are very different. So who knows what it actually does in our body when it goes in? It may be creating a different kind of process than the ancient grain used to do. And it's not really easy to find ancient grain these days. Um, Maybe in Europe. um, yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's good you mentioned Europe because I know when you started on your gluten-free diet, you were traveling, and I think you mentioned somewhere in the blog that you were eating in France or those
Yeah.
baguettes, and
Oh,
yeah,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, 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 and you were feeling good.
Well, actually, so it was my
It
husband.
was the start, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We went to Italy, and at that time I was not gluten free yet, but he was.
Okay.
He knew that he had that reaction to gluten, like immediate reaction. And we were traveling in Italy, and we were traveling in small towns. When we were in the small little towns, and he would eat gluten, he had absolutely no reaction to it. However, when we went to bigger cities like Florence, where the food is catered to tourists, in larger quantities, he had a reaction to gluten. So that was interesting. And of course, when he came back, he had reaction as well.
Mm-hmm.
When he came back to USA. So, that's kind of one of the examples from my experience how different gluten can have different processes in our body.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good. I just got actually a question from our listener. How important is to be 100% gluten, or we can kind of have
Yeah.
breaks or indulge something that we like, or we have to be strict in order to feel good, especially if we have those conditions?
That's a really awesome question, and it's not a very straightforward answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, it depends. First of all, let me share with you something. There's a study that came out last year from a Harvard study that looked at how gluten affects our gut lining. During the last show, we talked about how leaky gut is created. Stomach
Right.
permeability is created, and that's by eating foods that we're sensitive to.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, our gut lining gets ripped. It has creates little rips through which undigested food particles leak out into our system, which they shouldn't be doing in the first place. So, when it comes to gluten, the study found that whether you're celiac, whether you're just gluten sensitive, or whether you have zero sensitivity and you're fine with gluten, or you haven't been tested for positive celiac or positive gluten sensitivity, um, your gut lining is going to be affected by digesting gluten. So it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how you react to gluten, gluten is going to create a damage in the gut lining.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of big, and eye opening. And of course, it doesn't mean that everybody who's going to eat gluten immediately is going to have problems. For some people, their gut lining is going to repair, um, And if you don't eat a lot of it and consistently all the time, it might repair, and then maybe later if you eat some more, it will get damaged and repair back again. So it really depends how much gluten we ingest. Now, for somebody who's celiac, of course, there's some serious issues that come along with ingesting gluten. Um, um, for somebody with autoimmune disorders like Hashimoto's or Graves', gluten is quite important in terms of, well, the question is, how important is it to stay away from gluten 100%?
Yes, 100%, exactly.
So let me explain to you what a gluten does in our body when it enters our system. For those of us who have autoimmune conditions, there's this thing called molecular
well, it's
molecular mimicry. Sorry, gluten mimicry. And so what it means is that the gluten particles, the gluten molecules, when they're in our body, resemble thyroid tissue molecules. So when our body sees gluten, and it already has launched an attack in our thyroid, when it sees gluten, it thinks, oh, this may be thyroid tissue. Attack the thyroid tissue. So it mistakenly attacks you thinking it's attacking thyroid, whereas, it sees actually gluten molecules. So when we ingest gluten, it can fuel the autoimmune attack in our body. And it can do that for up to 6 months. So for example, you've been gluten-free for like 3 months, let's say, right? And maybe you're feeling better, and most likely you are feeling better.
100%, right? 3 months, 100% gluten-free.
Gluten-free, and then you ingest gluten, you can get autoimmune attack for up to 6 months.
Oh.
And that's huge, right?
Yes.
To me, it's not worth it. And that's why I am really, really careful about staying away from any gluten. When I go to restaurants, I ask them specifically about, what's in their dishes. I make sure that what I order is gluten-free. We're 100% gluten-free at home, so it's not much of an issue. Of course, we read labels and stuff. So I'm really, really careful.
How is your little one? Is that okay with him? Does he like something or if he doesn't know from the beginning, from the day he was born, that you didn't have gluten at home, especially, well, of course you were feeding him, but I mean, for other parents with kids, can you suggest something or kind of explore on it a little bit?
Well, yeah, good question. Because my husband and I are both gluten-free. We don't usually have gluten products in our home, but when we go out and, let's say we're at a party and there's gluten products, we don't necessarily keep them away from him. So, by default, we don't have it at home, so he doesn't eat it, but we do allow him to have some when we're out and about, just not on a, everyday basis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Okay.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention, for those who are considering going gluten-free, it might seem or like an overwhelming task, and it was for me initially. And I'm so grateful for having had you, Rita, as my coach to guide me and give me information that, I thought I knew everything, and of course I didn't, because
really, I gave you information more than you did know.
Exactly. For example, I didn't know when you go to Whole Foods and you get food from those bulk bins, there could be cross-contamination because, people switch off the scoops between different products, and, you might be scooping some gluten into your bag. So things like that. So if you guys, to the listeners, if you're considering going gluten free and you're feeling overwhelmed, just want to let you know it might be a little bit challenging at first, but it becomes,
The
part
second
of
nature, right? When
it.
you move forward.
Yeah, and we're here for you, Rita and I. If you have questions on how to, and if you need some guidance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Email Rita, you can email myself,
Of course,
and we can
yes.
certainly guide you through that.
Yeah, that would be great. Um, what do you think? How important is that? Maybe it will be easier just to stay out of the grains completely because grains are starches, are high carbohydrates, and especially for those who trying to lose weight, it's not really that of a good food overall. Or what's your insight on it? Or maybe stay out of it for a while having a cleanse or something to stay away from all the grains, and
Yeah.
then come back to just those that definitely have no gluten.
Yeah, so it's a very good question because there is no simple answer
So,
again.
of course, and it doesn't have to be because we're all different. And the
Exactly.
most important thing is, again, and I will repeat it again and again, to listen to yourself, to listen to your body, and take responsibility for your own health. Because there
Yes.
is, and be active and ask questions. Doctors, coaches, I don't know, anybody who can answer, and their answer will be well taken
Yes.
in scientific, well, with scientific, of course, approach to it. And
Yes. Mhm.
so, what's your insights on grains?
Yeah, so again, it's going back to by individuality, right?
Yes.
We're all different, and some people do well with grains, some don't. For me specifically, I have discovered I can have some grains. It does not inflame my autoimmunity. I have been in remission with grains, with gluten-free grains. I also noticed, however, for example, if I have grains in the morning, my
Mm-hmm.
energy levels are not that awesome as compared to when
Okay.
I have more of like protein type of breakfast. So, you really gotta choose there. You gotta listen to your body and figure out what works best for you. For some people with autoimmune conditions, not everyone, but for some, grains can inflame their autoimmunity.
Mm-hmm.
Gluten-free grains, so like rice or buckwheat or quinoa or amaranth, they can still inflame autoimmunity. And one good way to find out is to eliminate them
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
go on elimination diet. And like that is something that I offer through my cleanses, where we eliminate foods that we most likely can be sensitive to for a period of time, and then we reintroduce them back one at a time and monitor how our body responds. So for example, I was working with someone who tried to figure out if grains were, she was sensitive to grains. And um, what she discovered actually is that she can have gluten-free grains, but only when they're soaked.
Oh,
It does not give her the bloating and all the other digestive discomfort. So, for some people can actually do better with soaked grains. Um, I actually would suggest soaking grains, no matter.
exactly. Yes. That.
But it's a really great clue of how we react to certain foods when we're bloated, or if we get tired, or if we are have a headache, when we have some kind of reaction. It's a really good sign.
How long would you suggest to soak grains?
I usually soak them overnight. Hmm.
Good idea. And I just want to add that we should definitely soak beans if
Yes.
if we use them in our diets because well, we have to have some protein, especially for those who doesn't eat meat. But again, beans are so, some people are so very sensitive to it with having bloating and gases. And I mean, I am. I really don't feel good about eating some beans. But in another, just a quick tip to when we cook beans, it's good to add a piece of ginger. So that helps eliminate gases when we eat. But we're not talking about beans, but it's just come to my mind because we mentioned soaking.
Yeah, well, I think that it's a really good point because just like some people don't do well with grains, some people with autoimmune conditions, some don't do well with beans either. Yeah. So do you add ginger while you're cooking?
Yes,
Like a piece of
while
ginger?
cooking beans. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
a small piece of ginger, and then you can just throw it out, or you can eat it, whatever you prefer. Yeah. There is some good product that we can substitute grain with, including even kelp pasta or like coconut flour. There are so many other flours that we can substitute. And I remember you posted some of your dishes that you baked or cooked with no flour,
Yeah.
and they taste so good.
Hmm. Right. So instead of grain flour,
Mm-hmm.
you could use nut flour or or actually bean flour. Like some pastas are made with beans
Right.
and they're quite yummy, surprisingly.
Yeah, I recently used flax seeds flour. I baked something. I think the black currants are in abundance now in my garden, so I started to use them for baking, and I found the recipe with flax seeds meal,
Hmm.
and it was good. It was very good. And flax seeds are also kind of important. They have lots of omega-3.
Yes, good stuff. For sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's talk about cleans for a little bit. Is it a good idea to have a cleanse and then go gluten-free, or like eliminate uh, like grain and other not healthy stuff altogether, and it will be easier to go gluten-free after the cleanse?
Oh yeah, during the cleanse we do go gluten free actually. So once you're done, you will know how to already, so you can
Mm-hmm.
learn the skills and know what foods are gluten free, which ones are not. So that's certainly a great way to ease into gluten free lifestyle. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, of course, of course. Do you have any idea when you will be offering your next cleanse?
Yeah, well, actually, I offer cleanses every season.
Okay.
So summer, fall, winter, spring, and they're actually all seasonal, meaning they have seasonal foods, which I highly support
Of
eating
course.
season in
Mm-hmm.
season. But also they focus on season-specific organs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, um, for example, in the spring we just finished a spring cleanse. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's already summer, right?
Right.
Okay, so we were focusing on liver,
Mm-hmm.
which is not an easy cleanse because liver is, first of all, really huge when it comes to processing all the toxins out of the body. So it could be, it's very important kind of cleanse, but it can be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So next one will go in the fall
Yes. Well,
sometime.
we do have one right now going on for the summer. There's a summer cleanse, and then there'll be the fall one.
Right, and it's so much easier when you have a group and you can answer questions. And Svetlana, I know usually have a Facebook page for people to react, have comments, ask questions, and get support on
Yeah.
how the cleans go and which product or foods are much easier to to have, and you have, I think you have specific dishes and meals that you
Yeah.
offering, suggest to.
Yeah, absolutely. You get all the recipes,
Hmm.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's not, sometimes when people hear word cleanse, they think deprivation, starvation. It's not that at all because you get all the meals. You're not confined to like tiny portions. And you can have a snack or you can even have a dessert, a healthy dessert, but a yummy dessert.
Right.
They're all yummy and chef created recipes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you get total support from me, 100%.
Great. So follow Svetlana on the Facebook, and you'll definitely find out when is the next cleanse coming up.
Yeah.
And I think I am joining you too. So
Cool.
I'll make sure everybody know. I'll share the information as soon as you offer it, and hopefully it'll be big groups, and we go clean from
Yeah.
gluten and other stuff, unnecessary stuff. Very good. So, Svetlana can be found on the web page, My Health Beats, right?
My health
.com.
beat. Yeah, my health beat and beat is spelled BEET.
Okay,
ihealthbeat.com. Mm-hmm.
very good. And our center site is sungatescenter.com. You can check all the events that going on here at the center in Wheeling, Illinois. Just to mention, maybe for someone who listening in here in local, we're gonna have a tarot class 3 Mondays in a row, which will be facilitated by Franny Robbins. She is an amazing person. She is a healer and also a guide to John of God, and I love her deeply. Just being around her is in healing. So it'll be 3 Mondays. July 18, 25, and August 1st. For more information, you can definitely turn to sungatecenter.com. So next time, what we'll be talking about next time, um, and I think it's a great topic also, we'll be talking about emotions and Hashimoto and thyroid issues, and not only, maybe in general about emotions and stress and how we can actually settle it, and how bad emotions are. Maybe we need to feel emotions and not to hide them. So we're going to explore next Monday, which is July 18th, right? Same time, same place.
Thank
Join us here at sungatesradio.com. And you can find all the archives and all the recordings on, again, on our website, sungatecenter.com, on YouTube, and also on the Facebook. Um, Thank you, Svetlana.
Thank you, Rita, and thanks everyone who's been listening to us today. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And as always, your questions are welcome. You can email us, you can call us, you can post them on our Facebook pages, and we'll be happy to answer them during the
Absolutely.
radio show.
Oh, something.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. And everybody have a great day, a great week, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye, Svetlana. Bye.
Bye.